Hello and welcome to Making Sense of the Chaos podcast. My name is Sashka Regina Hanna, and if we haven't met before, it is nice to meet you. Welcome. And today's guest is Erika Diskancova, former head of enterprise of sales at Canva EMEA. Now, after studying and practicing law, she took an unexpected turn into sales, which we'll discuss in the podcast, when a move to Vienna sparked a whole new career path. Erika was part of the go-to-market journey during Kaleido's acquisition by Canva and went out to help scale Canva's European enterprise and mid-market sales business into a multi-million-dollar team. Now, at the end of last year, which is when I saw her post that she was leaving, she made another bold move, stepping away from corporate life, packing a backpack, and setting off to travel the world. She's joining us today from Hanoi, Vietnam, and we are going to be discussing a few things that are chaotic in our lives when it comes to decision making. We all have that feeling that, are we making the right decision? Is this the right decision? And from someone as Erika, who comes from law, works with a lot of facts and figures, intuition isn't something that usually comes into play, or your gut instinct, and how the two can be cohesive with one another in order to make the right decision for you, not necessarily for someone else, but definitely for yourself. So let's dive right in, shall we? What is the chaos today? Erika, tell me something. What is the chaos around choosing ourselves, around reinventing ourselves, around intervening on ourselves, around decision making, leadership? Tell us a little bit about yourself, just a little backstory. Where do you come from? What do you do? There's a song in that. Where do you come from? Where do you go? Cotton Eye Joe.
I love that song, by the way. I absolutely love it. And I also love that we are starting with this question, because I think reinvention and intervention, they kind of go hand in hand together, but we just like to tell the story of reinvention first without the intervening part, because it just sounds better, right? Reinvention is something that we associate with purposeful change, with inspiration, with building the next version of yourself from the position of strength, versus intervention is more about, I have to make a change because something didn't work out, that something just didn't feel good, something isn't optional, the change isn't optional, but it's mandatory. So I think honestly, the reinvention without intervention is not possible. And this doesn't, it often comes from the fact that something doesn't make you happy 100%. And without the uncomfortable moment of truth, reinvention doesn't really happen. You just keep optimizing for a life that doesn't feel right, but it looks right. And so for me personally, the change was always the outcome of an intervention that I had with myself to audit whether I'm still on the right path, whether I'm still happy. And the moment I was honest with myself, the reinvention was possible, because I finally started to feel like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. This is no longer my path. And so a little bit about myself, maybe for me, it started with a career that I was largely idealizing for myself, because I always wanted to do it from an early age. I had in my head that I wanted to become a lawyer. So I studied law. I worked in law for a while, but something felt off for me. And back then, it didn't feel like the right path. And something was pulling me out of my little comfort bubble, my little comfortable world. And so I started to search for jobs outside of my home country, which is Slovakia. And I started with the nearest town, with the nearest country, which was Vienna, Austria. But I very quickly realized that if I want to do what I studied, it's going to be very, very, very difficult. And so I searched, but then also I realized that I need to start searching outside of what I studied, outside of what I thought I'm originally going to be doing. And I started to apply for jobs outside of law. And let me tell you, it was very, very, very difficult to realize that after 5 years of studies and after 2 years of working in the field, I will need to start from scratch. So obviously the beginnings were very difficult, to the point that I started to doubt what I always believed and what I always swear by, and that was my gut feeling. And I really thought that this is the time when my gut feeling has let me down, which at the end, long story short, it turned out to be completely the opposite, because very soon I actually got, after sending hundreds and hundreds of CVs, I got a job offer from a large media intelligence company called Meltwater. And that's basically how my sales career started. The rest is almost history. Fast forward to Canva's acquisition of Kaleido, which back then was a very small startup, a very small Austrian startup, which ended up being the biggest Austrian exit in the history of startups. I was part of their sales team, and then a couple of years later, I joined the European go-to-market team for Canva, where I was leading the enterprise and mid-market sales team and building the team pretty much from the scratch in Vienna and then later on in London, until the end of last year when I decided to leave. And not because I had to necessarily, but what looked amazing on the paper just stopped feeling mine. And I knew that it's time to go.
That is such a, just when you're talking, it's exactly that, the reinvention and the intervention. You speaking about this reinvention that you went through and your past and studying law and then going into sales, and 5 years you were studying, and then this intervention. What was happening over there? What was your intuition actually saying to you? What did it feel like? The difference between intuition and anxiety, and intuition and guilt and shame, and intuition and leadership and ambiguity. What did that feel like? Or how did you discern between it all? You know, and mm-hmm. To be fair as well, we do have a little bit of privilege as opposed to some other countries. How did you deal with that as well, culturally?
Mm-hmm. That's a really good question. I think there is this narrative, especially for women, that changing your careers or changing anything about your life means instability. And this is something that, especially for a young woman, this was something that I heard from everywhere. Why would you study if you are not going to do what you studied? Why did you invest 5 years into that? And that's also something that I think is very common for my generation, for the millennials, because we have been told to pick a lane, to stick to it. When you are 18 years old, how are you supposed to know what you want to do for the rest of your life? And you shouldn't know what you want to do for the rest of your life. We should stop villainizing change, and we should stop villainizing the desire for change. Nothing is set in stone. So I went from law to sales. Nobody saw that coming, including myself. Now I'm traveling with a backpack and starting to build my own business. None of that was my plan. In fact, I had many other plans that were completely unrelated to what I'm doing right now. But I think that's the point. You do have the right to change your mind and start anew. And it's not being flaky. It's being one of the most valuable things you can do, because the moment you start, and if I can leave this podcast with one thing, and for everyone to remember one thing, is trust your gut feeling. Because if there is one single most valuable thing that you have, that all of us have within yourself, it's your gut feeling. Your gut feeling is often demonized, I feel, because it lacks data and it lacks logic very often. For me, it was exactly the same. It felt like I am doing something that I definitely should not be doing, because everything and everybody in my surroundings were telling me, why would you do that? This makes literally no sense. But there is this moment when you sit down with yourself, when you listen to yourself, when you really quiet yourself down and you maybe don't know what you want to do, but you know what you don't want to do anymore. And I think that's where the change starts, really, because gut feeling is also neurologically, gut feeling is the set of your own experience. This is where the saying, nobody has ever walked in your shoes, is coming from, because nobody actually has walked in your shoes. So your gut feeling is your own. You know, when you are, for example, when you are with your friends outside somewhere and you have a gut feeling about something and nobody else understands, that's not because something is not happening, or on the other hand side, something is happening that is not real. It's just your own set of data and your own set of experience that is screaming out loud, this is right, this is not right. And I think if everybody just sits down and attunes themselves to what their internal voice is saying, I think that's where the change starts.
It's so true. It's you versus the environment, and it's something that I understand now. In my 20s, I was just ambitious. I was just like, go, 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 and just do whatever I want. And just recently, I watched a Netflix movie, and it's not something I would ordinarily watch. It's called Mercy. And it was exactly this, where AI is now the judge in the court, and they've taken away the jury's real people and replaced it with AI. And a policeman gets called in for murder. And he says exactly this. He was like, I need to defend myself, but all I can rely on is my gut instinct, my gut feeling. And the AI didn't understand it until the end. The gut instinct is what carried them through, and you go on a hunch. And it's exactly, there's no data. It's all just feelings, and it's you versus the environment. And the environment is so much noise, and the only thing you can rely on is your gut instinct. So where you are right now, you mentioned that you're starting your own business and you're traveling, you're backpacking, and you've gone not because you had to, but it was by choice that you left a very high positioned corporate job that could have gone even higher. But as you said, it wasn't your calling. So where is the calling going, and how have you made sense? Well, you don't have to spill all, what the calling is, but how have you sorted out your chaos? What is it, like a bit of a methodology or something to our listeners that they're going, I'm in front of a few decisions for myself, and on the one hand it's telling me this, and on the other hand it's telling me that. And leading on that question, maybe just weaving into it, once you make that decision for that intuition, there's a sense of excitement because things are moving forward, and at the same time it's letting go of old versions of yourself. I don't like to count new and old. It's just an old version of yourself, and there's a sense of grief, and sometimes things will come back up to confuse and create more chaos. So it's just like, did I make the right decision? I can't remember. Did I not? So explain to us, how have you sorted through this chaos as advice for our listeners, and how do you deal with that grief of the old self?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Before I answer that, I just want to very quickly address something, because I think it needs to be said and it needs to be acknowledged. I am speaking from a very privileged position, right? As you mentioned at the beginning, we are all a bit privileged up to a certain extent, but I am sitting here on the other side of the world, having left a senior role in one of the fastest growing companies in the world, whilst the job market is absolutely brutal right now. The January this year, I think we had the largest layoff announcement since 2008 financial crisis. Job openings are at their lowest at the moment, and the quit rate, the voluntarily leaving your job, is basically below pre-COVID levels at the moment. So that means that people are not leaving their jobs. Even if they don't like them, they are not leaving their jobs because of the sense of security. So I just want to mention, I 100% see this. I 100% respect that everybody has their own circumstances, and I'm not here to tell anybody to leave their job tomorrow, to just, if you don't have a good feeling about something, just go and quit and go head against the wall for something to just for the sense of feeling right. But we also need to acknowledge that there has never really been a good time for change, right? I think this is something that, just related to your question, how do you know when it's the time? That you don't really know, because there are so many external circumstances and external factors that are telling you this is not the right time. Wait for the better time. Wait until the market is going to be more secure. And the truth is that might never come, because 2008 we had a financial crisis, then the years afterwards we were recovering from that. 2020 was a pandemic, years afterwards we were recovering from that. 2025 was the year of mass layoffs across all industries. 2026, AI uncertainty, even bigger layoffs. By 2030, majority of the skills that we have are going to be obsolete for the job market because of AI. And we are going to see rise of jobs that have not even been invented yet. So all I'm saying is there might not be the right time. The right time is, there might always be a reason not to change, not to make a brave decision. But I think it's the braveness, the bravery to change always comes from something that is deep inside of you, telling you not what the cost of the change is, but what's the real cost of staying where I am. Where do you see yourself? I think this question tends to be a little bit of a cliche, but where do you see yourself in 5 years from now? If you can imagine yourself doing the same thing, being in the same job, being in the same country, being in the same apartment or same house, doing exactly the same thing, and it feels amazing, then perfect, do it, continue, stay, and that's beautiful. But I think if there is a little bit of you and part of you that is saying, okay, I don't think that I'm going to be happy, that's your sign that it's not you staying where you are because you are lazy or because you are not brave enough. It's you staying there because it feels secure, but the cost of staying there is so much larger.
That's so true. I know for myself, decision making for me personally has always been my intuition is very silent. Anxiety makes me go in loops. So when I get the loop, I'm going, oh, okay, I'm anxious, and my intuition will just know, okay, and then I just take a step, and the step reveals the path. And you only know when you off the path is when you actually see the path. Because when you see it, then you're in your comfort zone. But if you don't see it, it means that you're creating it in that moment. And that's the scary part, is that like you mentioned, it doesn't really matter what generation you're from. Nobody knows who or what they want to be or where they want to go. And we all are conditioned to think that it really is set in stone. Like if I decide now with 17 that I want to go into IT, that I have to do IT for the rest of my life. And it's just not the case. It really isn't like that. Like you can be anything and anyone you want. And I know a lot of people have often reprimanded me on this, like, no, you can't just be anything and everything. And I'm going, yes, you can. Like, even if I wanted to become a doctor now, I'd need to go and study. But the world has changed now in terms of medicine compared to 20, 40, 50, 70 years ago. Things are different now as a doctor, and you can learn so much differently now. So where are you going now, and what do you want to leave our listeners with as a mentor for women in decision making? Should they be in a not so corporate job, in a corporate position? What advice could you give for them at the moment as our exit point in making sense of the chaos around intuition and decision making?
I think we are heading towards the world where your career is going to be less an upward climb, and it's going to be more of a portfolio of multiple chapters, multiple industries. You will have probably also career breaks, gaps that are not seen as gaps really, but as an investment into yourself. And I truly believe that this is the path forward. And I think the global society, the global community is already starting to realize that. So the question just is, since the world is already catching up, are you brave enough to move ahead of it? And if I can leave the listeners, I already hinted at that, if I can leave the listeners with one thing to remember or one thing to take away, I think there are two things that are, for me, always very important when making a change. And that is the gut feeling, the intuition. If you approach it, I think there is the subconscious and conscious mind that is always fighting for us. I think the moment you start acknowledging your unconscious or subconscious mind, it becomes conscious. So the moment when you acknowledge that you need a change, that change is going to happen. And because you are going to make steps, exactly as you said, you are going to make steps towards that change. You just need to trust yourself. You need to trust your gut, because your gut, as I said already, is the most valuable asset that you have available. On the other hand side, I would say what was very important for me in my leadership experience is always evaluate everything against your current values. Your values might have changed when you were 10, 15, 20, 50, 70. Your values are constantly changing, and what was right for you 20 years ago might not necessarily be right for you right now. So do the audit, evaluate, write down your values from the most important one that you cannot compromise on to the least important one that you would be happy to give up tomorrow, and audit your life against those values. I think this is one of the most valuable advice that I got from my mentors. Do the audit and do it on a regular basis, because if you are leading your life based on the values that you had 20 years ago, that life might not necessarily fit you anymore.
I love that. Really just pay attention to yourself. Those values, the principles, the essence, the character, the personality, the behaviors, because that forms and shapes your identity moving forward, and gives you the courage to take steps the same way I did. It might not seem that big to someone else, but just, reading your post on LinkedIn and going, oh my God, I'd love to meet her. She's so cool. Let me just invite her on the podcast. And then reaching out and not even knowing that you were in the process of moving in the same town that I'm living in, where I was like, what the fuck? Okay, cool. And then getting
I'm
to
so
meet
happy you did reach out.
It's so cool. And it's just little steps like that, because we have no idea who we're going to meet, what we're going to do, and how each person accentuates our path. And as something very important, trusting the process in making those decisions, because you just don't know where they're going to lead to. The most important thing is, I saw a quote yesterday that said, I don't need you to understand me. That's my job. I was like, oh, exactly. Damn. And if anyone that I've met in a long, long time, quite honestly, besides some of my clients, Erika, you definitely do know yourself, and you've taken the time to love yourself and accept yourself and trust the process. So it's been a pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Making Sense of the context, the chaos. And I look forward to a part 2 coming up once things start evolving, and then we can have a little bit of an update of what's been happening.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure being here, and thank you again for reaching out so boldly on LinkedIn. It's been such a pleasure to meeting you.
Awesome. And thank you to the listeners. I will put in the details in the show notes where you can get hold of Erika and get in contact with her on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Have an awesome day. Bye-bye.
Bye.